good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Digital Discovery Show. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us from wherever you're tuning in from or watching the replay across our Facebook and YouTube channels. This show, it's born out of the pleasure and the honor that we have daily at Tourism Tribe and Navii Digital of helping small businesses around Australia with their digital discovery and with their digital journey. So this is absolutely brought to you by Tourism Tribe and Navii Digital, and our promise to you is coming to you live every Friday, same time at 11 a.m. Melbourne, Sydney, and 10 a.m. up north to our Queensland friends and community. Now, you haven't seen me for some time on the Facebook network because it's very relevant to be having this conversation today and introduce to you a very special guest that we have here with us that we met recently on the back of Cybersecurity Week, and Jonathan Horne, who I'll introduce you and bring on to the show to have a great chat about the topic of cybersecurity and cybercrime and how it relates to all size businesses. This isn't just a big business matter. It's absolutely so relevant for us to be aware. And speaking of aware, Jonathan Horne, he's the CEO and founder of CyberAware and working to make cybersecurity for businesses of all sizes. If you haven't heard the word Navii Digital, we've launched this week with the One Small Step series and the One Small Step campaign. We had our first episode that happened on Wednesday that streamed to the 200 million plus Facebook Australia page, as well as all of our streams. Our friend Jonathan, who you'll meet shortly, he will be our keynote for episode 2 next Wednesday. So keep following our socials, and that is an excellent, that is a great follow-up for you to hear from Jonathan and other small businesses again about their journey in avoiding costly mistakes in our small businesses. Now, Jonathan and his team at CyberAware were also named Gold Disruptors in the 2019 ACS, which is Australian Computer Society Digital Disruptor Awards, and recently were the winners of Best Cybersecurity Project, Product or Pivot for the YBF Ventures Australia Online Startup and Innovation Awards. So he's not only super talented, he's also doing great things as an entrepreneur in the tech space. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Jonathan Horne from CyberAware. Hey! Hello, hi Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's such a pleasure to introduce you to all of our community.
Thank you for having me.
Look, Jonathan, you have done such great work, and certainly in the last little while, as I've gotten to know you, and now organising this episode with One Small Steps series. Tell us how you got started. Share with us your journey of CyberAware and how did that become a blatantly obvious challenge that businesses are having in Australia, and the solutions that you're providing for the small, medium and big business community.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me on board. But the journey probably starts, since I left school, all I've ever done is build businesses. So build, scale and sell businesses. And previously I was in the domain name and hosting businesses. And as a young kid, I had a business with a Holden Astra with website for you on the back, and used to sort of burn around, make sure it was really loud exhaust so everyone could see the writing on the back of the car. But I've always been in technology and was building the web design business, and then got into domain names and hosting. And we fast forward, was doing that for probably 10 years. And then fast forward, built quite a good business in that industry. And then started to get an interest in cybersecurity. The domain name and hosting industry is changing. The internet, the way that people get websites and domain names is changing. Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly and the likes are really coming in, and GoDaddy really changing that digital journey. Previously you had to buy a domain name and point DNS records to hosting, and FTP a WordPress website up, and then connect the MX records to the email. There's a lot of moving parts, like the old computer shop. The future is very different in that space. The future is consolidated. A young person deciding they want to go digital, and they simply go to a Squarespace or a Wix, and their presence is much easier to obtain. So knowing that was the future, you always have to be disrupting yourself. I started looking at different areas to invest and look at building businesses in, and cybersecurity. This would be 4 years ago. Was really something that took my interest. Predominantly because I felt that most of the industry was either selling silver bullets, so buy this single product and you'll be safe, that sort of marketing. But a lot of businesses were being presented with solutions that were very technical. They were technical in nature and difficult to understand. So I went traveling. I went to the RSA, which is the largest cybersecurity conference in the world. And I went to some other sort of niche ones like Black Hat and DEF CON, and started to talk to people, predominantly in the US, about, what does cybersecurity mean to them over there. And what I learned was that a typical business in the US, say, we said just a tourism business with 4 or 5 staff, they would have a representative going to these security conferences to determine whether what they were doing for their business was up to scratch with their current solution. And I was talking to attendees, and they were talking with a level of sophistication that, to be honest, I didn't even have in my business, and we were a technology business at the time. So what happened is it was an accounting firm that I was speaking with, and they had 5 partners, and that was really the one that I opened my eyes. And he started going through what they had as a cybersecurity plan and what they had in place and the controls, and I was thinking, wow, this is just a small accounting firm, and they've got a better maturity than what I do at home. Came back, got a security company involved. Had them do a pen test on the business. So a pen test is where they try and get into the business. Basically, they pretend that they're hackers, and they try and get into the business, and then present a report to you to say this is how it was done. And I thought we were pretty good. Anyway, this particular gentleman that came in, he was there for about 20 minutes, and he came and sat on the couch in the office and had a bit of a chuckle, and he goes, "Are these your passwords?" And lo and behold, they were. And what he'd done is, now looking back, was something quite simple. He just sent a phishing email to my staff. That particular staff member that fell for that, he got the email account address off him. Inside of his email box, he just moved computers, so he had his passwords on a text file that he'd emailed himself, so that he could get them onto the new computer that he had. Mind you, this is sort of a long time ago. Our controls are much better now in that business, but it was a big eye opener that one, we'd spent serious money and effort on securing the business. By the way, 2-factor would have stopped that, so we'll talk about later. But controls in the business. But what happened was, it came down to the individuals in the business, and we hadn't done any training. I thought, as the business owner, I could put a barricade and a wall around the business, technically speaking. And that really opened my eyes up to, the first and last line of defense of the people. So that then led years ago to looking into, how do I uplift the knowledge of the employees in the business. We did some stuff internally, some training, and that then grew. And, like any good business, grows out of necessity of scratching your own itch. So we built out something really cool internally. And that was when it was originally called DefendWise, back in the very, very early days. We built a platform where the content could be delivered in a scalable way, and the rest is history.
The rest is history, and I love so much what you shared here, not only for the awareness of cyber security, but also having a plan. I think a lot of, particularly for the tourism industry, when I speak of the tourism operators who've been heavily compromised and hit by COVID. So we talk a lot about a COVID plan and the secure COVID plan, but in our language, having a cyber security plan is not something that's really ingrained in us. So that's a real big one.
That was the very first product that we did. Was at the time it was called the FemWide, but now it's called a product called CyberAware Business. And what that is, it's essentially a 56 questions that a business will do. And then after those 56 questions, you're given a cyber risk dashboard. And what that dashboard does is it breaks down your entire business and all the different parts of the business and what cybersecurity risk you have in that. So it might be patching of the computers. It might be authentication with passwords and two-factor. It might be information security. It might be, incident response if something goes wrong and you've got no plan there. It might be disaster recovery. Cybersecurity as a risk center of the business is really big, and it poses a really great risk. The problem is there's not a lot of things out there that give you the roadmap of, if you've got 50 things to do, here are the things that are most important. If you move into a new house, the first things you'll do is you'll put some basic locks on the window. If you've got really valuable possessions, you might later on put bars on the window. You might install a safe. You might not drill the safe into the ground, but then later when you've got really valuables, you might drill into the ground. So it's a linear progression of controlling what assets you have in your business. So CyberAware Business was the very first thing we did, and it was a roadmap for businesses to follow. Now we incorporate some great resources from ACSC into there. There's some really great content, but the platform itself allows people to do a health check, and then they get the dashboard, and then it gives them, here are the top 5 things that you should do in your business to start reducing that risk. So that actually was the first, and that was the big motivator behind the business. Is a small business that knows that they've got a cybersecurity risk. What do you do? What action steps do you follow over the next 2 years to lift that maturity of the business?
Oh, a great question. I think you've probably put, light bulbs will be going off for many people that are listening to this and listening to you talk. When it comes to it, I guess, what are some of the things that you see that exposes the risk? What is the common thing that you would see with a small business, and the type of education that's required from these health checks? Because I see for Jonathan, for us, a lot of our education is around digital marketing to grow business, and it really has over the last little while, our internal processes have really come into a lot of our programs too, particularly around the password management as a starting point. But I love this real holistic approach of a cyber health check for your business. So what are some key things that you could share with us that really leave that type of exposure for businesses?
So 2 things. First of all, I think it's important for businesses to understand what I feel that I hear a lot is nobody really cares about my businesses. You don't have actors in the Middle East or in Asia or even the other side of Australia that really care about hacking into my business. And that's a really dangerous misconception. They say we're too small, it's not appropriate to us. Unfortunately, once it happens, it's too late. And then it's very difficult. There's ransomware to be paid, there's systems to be restored, it's a real pain. I think the first thing is to understand that in most cases, some cases not. If you're an energy company or a water utility company, it's not the case. But most businesses, it's important to understand they're not. If the threat is not specifically targeted at you, what we like to say is that you become an accidental specific target. And what I mean by that is that there'll be a large scale email campaign. It might be coming up to Christmas, a parcel is in the mail ready for your pickup, and it's got an AusPost logo on there. Now that might go out to 2.5 million people. It might go, someone might scrape LinkedIn and get everyone in the tourism industry as an example, but it'll go out to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. If any of your employees or anyone inside of your network, it might be a husband, a daughter, a son, an employee, if anyone then clicks on those emails and shows that they have a low cybersecurity maturity, so low understanding that that's a phishing email, you basically come into a funnel. So you start out here, and then it might be a relative, a son or someone living in your house, or someone working in your office, a colleague. They will then click on that email. And what happens is that, then they go, big board, they go, okay, here is of 500,000 people, 400,000 people ignored our email. Here's 100,000 people that didn't ignore those emails. Of those people, they were Gmail, Hotmail, all of this. Oh, look, there's someone at tourism.com. Okay, well, that's a more interesting target to us. And they start to filter in. And then all of a sudden, just because of that one innocent thing that an employee has done, you then do become a specific target. They will then research your business, and then things become a lot real. So it's not that you're a target on the outset, that someone says, I want to target that company with 5 employees or 50 employees. You accidentally become a target because of the behavior of the staff. So the first thing is every business to understand that they can end up being a target. Second thing is, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some really easy things that have huge impact, and things that don't really even cost any money. So that's what we talk about, two-factor. Two-factor is easy to set up. We're big fans of 1Password. 1Password will do your password management and your two-factor in one. But I think that there's a step just before the two-factor, which is understanding that your business can be at risk. And 2, understanding what in your business you should be protecting. You can't protect, yes, you can protect your entire business, but it's not where your energy should go. As a small business, you should, there are just key things that if they disappeared, or if they were tampered with, or they were ransomware and locked, and like what's happening at the moment, not only were they locked, but they were then put up for sale on the dark web, so your competitor or industry can see that information. What is that? Would probably be your emails. It would be probably access to your P&Ls and Xero and Mile. It would be probably access to your bank accounts, and probably access to your file servers, so Dropbox as alike. What we recommend is understanding that those are the 4 or 5 most important things for your business, and then start by focusing on them. Make sure that all of those particular systems have two-factor. You don't need to put two-factor on every single system that you use. Put it on the ones that are most important. So putting two-factor on Xero, putting two-factor on Mile, putting two-factor on your banking, putting two-factor on your socials if you've got business social pages, as you just alluded to. So making sure you've got two-factor and good passwords. The reason the password thing comes up is if a particular site that you use a password for gets breached, it's very easy for a threat actor to take that and then go over to Dropbox and then start loading that same email address and password into Dropbox. It's a very easy, cheap way for them to get access into your business. So don't use same passwords across multiple websites. The easiest way is bite the bullet, spend half a day getting to understand how password managers work and implement them.
So good, Jonathan, and like I said, it's something as my first-hand experience through a social media compromise, and it's going to be an ongoing. I think is going to also, I'm looking at it as an opportunity that it has brought it to the forefront of really sharing experts like yourself to our wider network. Now, thank you and welcome to Suzanne Holden. She's one of our great friends from Icon Adventures. Jonathan, welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining us. She's asking, what are your thoughts on out-of-office auto-reply emails? And she's saying she seems to get a lot of spam when this is turned on. Can you talk to that at all, Jonathan?
Yeah, that is true. So it's you've got to weigh up the mitigation on that control versus the benefit. If you're in the travel industry and you've got clients in airports expecting to reach you and they email you at a normal hour of the day and expect to get a response, it's important that auto response is there. So simply me saying don't use autoresponders, you need to weigh that up. The autoresponder, the issue is that if they email, if a threat actor gets a list of 500,000 email addresses, they will send 500,000 emails, and then they will see who clicks and also who responds. So if you remember before how we've got a funnel coming in, their systems don't understand whether that's an auto response or it's a real person. Then when they filter through, they'll see that. So ideally, yes, it will raise a flag for you. It's very common. Of those 500,000 emails, probably 100,000 of them will be autoresponders. Just like ticketing systems. A ticketing system, they have algorithms to detect autoresponders. I'm sure if they were running a good business, they're hacking organizations, they probably have filters to filter out autoresponders as well. But yes, it does prove that is a problem, but it's a necessity. So is it's a necessity of being in business. Another point on that, because it leads me in the same thinking, is on websites, it's very common that you'll have the email address in plain text on the website. That's a big no-no. It's not required. You're much better off putting a contact form on there. If you've got a contact form, even putting a capture form, which you'll see, you'll have the Google capture form that says, is this a traffic light or a pedestrian crossing? That stops bots being able to send you details. But having your email address in plain text, and even worse, there's a mail to link. So if you click on the email address and if it opens your email browser, that's called a mail to link, is a surefire way for that email address to get slammed with spam. So ideally, if it's already on there, it's likely it's already floating around. But if you're starting a new website, best practice is not to put the email address in plain sight. Definitely don't have a list of all of your employees with an email link to each individual employee. Link to their LinkedIn, or put it on the contact form, say who you'd like to send the inquiry to. But try and restrict the amount of access that is easily accessible. They've got bots that will just scrape millions of websites a day.
So best, you're saying, put a LinkedIn profile for a team. If anyone else, is profusely writing and has goosebumps from like, oh, what are we doing? And we need to go and check these things. That would be a better practice rather than. Yeah, it's such innocent things that we're trying to reach our customers and connect in the right way, right? But what even this kind of concept of threat actors, these are still, as much as it's, there's a lot of technology behind this. This is still crime by humans that are performing.
And you look at the biggest threat right now is people, and people are most at risk when they're emotional. So that's why there's a lot of COVID scams going around, COVID testing, government subsidies for that. Travel is emotional, and it opens up the door for even greater risk. If I was a threat actor and I had the access to a travel agent's details, being able to send an email to everyone that's previously had a booking saying, hey, something's come up, we need you on the next payment for your next part of your trip. We need you to pay this bank account instead of that bank account, or your trip's been cancelled. We need to just pay a small, it's when people are traveling, they're happy or they're stressed. And it's when they involve those emotions that mistakes happen. So of an industry, tourism and travel is certainly something that, it needs really to pay good attention to cybersecurity.
Absolutely. So some practical things in a summary here is really look at the important elements of your business, and something that you can do straight away is two-factor those. So having that clear roadmap of what is worth protecting, and the more we do talk about time-saving aspects of our business, avoiding the costly mistakes, particularly as more and more is on the cloud for all of our businesses. These are really important things. And the 1Password or LastPass, these are all really good platforms to move onto. It's really interesting what you say about businesses not taking it that seriously, Jonathan. What do you think that is, you know, when they got with the cybersecurity, and what would you say to those businesses that think they're too small, or they don't have the means of having anything that's worth to them, that's worth taking online, that mindset?
Yeah, I think that's his risk in general.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know travel, so I do. Yeah, if we just talk travel and tourism, but it's probably no dissimilar to what a lot of the industry has when, you know, when they're booking a trip and saying, do you want travel insurance? You know, it's getting someone to understand when their heads, you know, when you're running a business, most of the time you've got a positive mindset. So it's an optimistic, positive mindset. It's all going to be great. You know, when you're booking a holiday, it's going to be great. I'm going to be sitting on the beach drinking pina coladas. Why would I need to get a level of insurance in case there's a pandemic and I end up in hospital in South America for 6 months, or on a cruise ship and I can't get home for 6 months? So it's understanding the risk is real, and it's also understanding it's looking at why people don't take it seriously, and then addressing those falsehoods, I'd say. And one of them is, we're too small for anyone to care, or we don't have anything that anyone would want. Anyone in tourism has things, because you have people that are traveling, you have people that are spending money, most of the time big money, and you have people who are emotional. So we're not, but if I was a threat actor, that's a great place to go fishing. So it's an industry that is right for it. There's money being transferred around. There's relationships that aren't face to face. So it really is a honeypot for cybersecurity. So I think breaking down those reasons why people don't take it seriously, but I think a lot of it also is because it's a really big problem. And if you're faced with a big problem, the easiest way is to ignore it. And I think, you know, anything that we do in forums like this is really to, you know, yes, we've got a lot of things that we can help, which the, you know, big solutions, and, you know, but there's a lot of easy things, like we were saying, two-factor. You've got cyber.gov.au is a great resource, free resource. The Australian government's done a great job with that. We've got a free resource, which is free.cyberaware.com. There's things, just taking some basic steps will significantly reduce that risk. And also, I think another thing is, well, you know, another thing that we hear of why people don't do anything, they say, well, LinkedIn was hacked, and there's no way I can protect my business like LinkedIn, so I just won't do anything. You know, that's the equivalent of saying, you know, I can't stop anyone breaking into my house because I've got windows. So they can smash a window and climb through the window. But because they can smash through a window, which is relatively hard, I may as well not put locks on the doors. Why bother? You know, people look at cybersecurity as a binary decision. If I can't stop them, then why do anything? It's too hard. You know, it's you know, we have a saying when we're talking with people is, you know, the slowest line gets eaten. You know, the slowest cheetah gets eaten. Is that, you know, the lowest hanging fruit is where it's going to be. So you don't want to be the lowest hanging fruit. You don't want to be an easy target. It's not to say that you're not going to be a target, but you don't want to make it easy. And there's some really simple things you can do that have a huge impact.
Jonathan, in terms of more for businesses that might be curious in looking at more of what you do and your solutions, what's where can they find out more about that and find out more about you?
So cyberaware.com, particularly if people wanted to look at what that roadmap looks like, they can go to free.cyberaware.com. That will take them to a landing page. They fill out the details there. They get access to that health check I was talking about. Inside there's a whole bunch of resources. The government's website, cyber.gov.au, is a wonderful resource filled with some fantastic tools, tip sheets to get started. I think the takeaway will be two-factor authentication. Really, really important, especially on your email systems, your banking, your accounting software, your booking systems. And we really, there's a few out there. 1Password, we're huge fans of 1Password. It's a great system. Another common question is, if all of my passwords are in 1Password, isn't that worse than me having an incredible Einstein brain and remembering all these 25 character passwords? The answer to that is no. When you're setting up a password manager like 1Password, there are a few things that you need to be aware of. One is you need to make sure that the password you use for them is really safe and secure. So a really great way to create a really safe, one single really safe password is a passphrase. So it might be Digital Discovery Show was great with Jonathan from CyberAware. In 2021, I'm going to take cybersecurity seriously. As a password, as a passphrase. It's a lot of systems will allow you to have extremely long passwords, but for a computer system to brute force that, we'll all be dead before that'll be brute forced at that length. So so making sure you've got one very secure password, and then they will enforce you've got two-factor on those systems anyway. So once you've got that one thing done, and with two-factor on that, then all of a sudden on your phone, on your browsers, it's so easy. You say, would you like 1Password to create a strong password for you? Yes. You don't even ever see the password. You don't even ever have to remember a password again, except that one long, maybe the name of everyone in your family with some other stuff in there, and something that is important for you to remember. That's the only one that you have to remember. So password manager and two-factor authentication.
Oh, you've enlightened us, Jonathan. Thank you so much. If anyone's got any other questions, share your aha moments, how you're feeling at the moment with your cybersecurity journey, and bringing that to the forefront as you're creating your plans. And I think as much as for tourism, I can see, and I've heard some stories from colleagues, even in any other, really, it's so relevant to every industry, isn't it? Whether it's, like you had mentioned, an accounting firm or a retail business, we are all exposed to this. And also personally, I think your personal exposure, not just your business, as I've recently found out, it was a personal compromise on a social media account, but because we need our personal accounts to be connected to our business, it's been so disruptive and so out of your control once it happens to you. So I think
and I think business owners have a real opportunity. It's a cheesy saying, but it is true. A business doesn't make its employees cyber aware. The employees make the business cyber aware. And as an employer, you have the ability to help your employees understand cybersecurity, not just for your business, but for their own personal privacy and their own digital footprint. It's a real opportunity for employers and that's CyberAware, shameless plug on CyberAware. That's really what CyberAware is about. It's about engaging the employees in cybersecurity so that they understand all of our training is based upon real world incidences. So it might be the Uber USB, it might be Singapore health breach, and we talk about that real world incident and how it happened with real world people and what that means to them as individuals. So it might be credit rating issues, might be loss of jobs. So it's we explain what it means to that individual, because getting the employee to take their digital footprint seriously inadvertently makes your business secure. So you need to do some things as a business, but more importantly, if each individual in your business understands what their digital footprint is and why that's important, then inadvertently your business becomes bulletproof. I wouldn't say bulletproof because that's not true, but becomes a lot more resilient.
Oh, look, I think just being in your presence and having you with us today, we've taken that one small step to being bulletproof on the digital journey. And thankfully, look, it's great. And I feel really blessed that with what we deliver in our programs, that this is really featured, and it has over some time now, particularly around password management, which is something so important. So Suzanne is saying, I think I have said everything Jonathan has mentioned. I'm too small. I've got nothing for them to take. My password's on a hidden spreadsheet on my computer. So she's just saying thank you and great information. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It does. It speaks to all of us, and it's good to put it back on the forefront and have it as part of any risk management and any risk management plan. CyberAware.com.
Yeah, and speak to your IT providers. You know, the IT providers, have a conversation with them. You know, ask them what are we doing about two-factor authentication? What are we doing about training? You know, what are we doing about the bringing people bringing their own devices into work? You know, tourism. And to be fair, I've not put my head to tourism much before tourism or travel, but the more we're talking about it, the more I see it's a serious issue. You know, you guys are working remotely. You've got people from internet cafes sending you emails, and when they're so as an industry, you know, certainly there's a lot to take seriously, but it's not scary. You know, there's some simple things that you can do, like on the screen here. Free.cyberaware.com will get you into a health check that'll give you an idea, and speak to your IT team and make sure.
What a point you make too. Like, we've all got an IT guy or girl, but it's not something. And I've said, you know, it's not something even the IT. This is all about empowerment. That putting you always, you know, again, an analogy, being in the driver's seat of your bus, that if your IT person hasn't had this conversation with you, because they're kind of there to make sure, you know, things are working okay, but it's not part of their scene. So if it's not the IT guy to go, it might be someone else that you need to have this conversation with.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good point to make as well. You know, cybersecurity is a unique risk and a unique industry in itself. That, you know, it's as much technical as it is, you know, soft controls as hard controls. You know, you wouldn't speak to your IT provider to ask them whether you've got an incident response plan or, you know, a risk matrix in your business. You know, it'd be a consultant possibly. So if you haven't addressed cybersecurity in its own right with your IT vendor, that's okay. You know, there's, again, if you come through or shoot us an email at CyberAware, we can point you into the direction of some companies that do. Some companies do IT support and cybersecurity services. There's a really quite a large industry of MSSPs, so managed security service providers. You know, all they do is the security side of the business. So you've got the guys that look after your computers and your desktops and printers. There's a whole industry of businesses that can just come in and only help you. You know, they work together. The IT provider, which is called like a managed service provider, and then over this side you've got an MSSP, a managed security as a service provider. And a lot of the times they'll come together. A lot of the times businesses expect their IT provider to be the security provider. You know, fundamentally that's not the case. It's a specific set of skills and understanding of the risks. Where in some cases you just need to be put in touch with a managed security service provider.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jonathan, we've got the resources. We will also have this, you will find this on the Digital Discovery Show page on Tourism Tribe and on Navii, on navii.com.au. I think we will stay, definitely, not I think, we will stay in touch with Jonathan. And if you haven't signed up already for one small step, if you go to navii.com.au There we go, one small step. Thank you, dear Hannah. You will hear Jonathan as our keynote on next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, Melbourne, Sydney, and 10 o'clock over for our Queensland friends. And we will be sharing that with you on our channels and, of course, with our friends at Facebook and MyOb. A pleasure, Jonathan. What a way to start our Friday and finish our week. You've enlightened our digital journey, that's for sure.
Thank you, Tourism Tribe and Navii.
Thank you. Okay, until next time, everybody, thank you to Jonathan. Thank you to everyone that has joined us live on the show. Thank you, Suzanne, for being always such a great supporter and your questions. And to everyone that's watched the recording, please feel free to reach out and you can find some more resources on Tourism Tribe and Navii Digital. And if you have not done so already, don't forget, register at navii.com.au/one small step, and you can watch the episode that we've just had this week with the launch of the One Small Step initiative. And don't miss the opportunity to watch Jonathan and the other panelists sharing knowledge, content, and you can see it's just gold from someone of the likes of Jonathan around time-saving tips, but also being very mindful and aware of avoiding costly mistakes to your business. Until next time, happy Friday or any day of the week where you've tuned in, and we'll see you next Friday, same time, same place. Thanks, everyone.